Okay, but it could be.
No.
You're not going to do it? Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay, well.
I mean, never say never and all that, but no way.
Okay, fine.
Hi, and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman, and I'm crossing another one off the vision board list for 2024. Today's author conversation is with someone I have loved for a very long time. Like, I'm pretty sure I had an arc of The Sun Is Also a Star. I know I have everything, but I don't know if it was an arc. So I've been on this ride with Nicola Yoon for quite some time. That being said, Nicola's husband is also a writer, and he's kind of part of the reason that I'm even doing this author interview series as it is today in the first place. So I've wanted to talk to them together, but this was my first opportunity to talk to Nicola, so I definitely had to take it. While Nicola is known for the YA romances, including Instructions for Dancing, she was in town promoting her new adult thriller. This is her adult debut, one of our kind. It's pitched as Get Out meets the Stepford Wives, so it's a thriller. It's very different from anything you've ever read from Nicola, and it's quite an adventure. And she wants you to throw the book at the end, and we'll find out how I feel about the end here momentarily. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Nicola Yoon.
Welcome to Literary Hype. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I've been wanting this for so long.
You are too kind. Thanks for having me.
You've been on quite the whirlwind lately, including Late Night with Seth Meyers.
Oh my God.
What was that like?
I mean, it was completely surreal, but like the best way, because I was so nervous. And then I sat down with him and I felt fine. Like, because he's so nice and interested, and like he leans in. And I had a really good time, shockingly. And then afterwards, I just collapsed and I drank a lot of sake.
And you got to talk about your daughter reading your book for the first time.
Yeah.
What is that like for you as a parent, for your child to finally reach the age where they can read your work and like enjoy it?
You know, it's funny because like I definitely have made a conscious decision not to pressure her into reading them, right? Like it's fine. I love her anyway. She loves me anyway. The books doesn't enter into it. But she had read David's, which one did she read? She read Super Fake Love Song and loved it, like quoted him back to him, like, because it's a really funny book. And they have the same sense of humor. And so they cackled over that. And then a few months later, she just decided she was ready for The Sun Is Also a Star. She picked it up, read it, and just like I think in 2 days, cried her little eyes out at the end. And as I said on Seth Meyers, she's not a crier when it comes to this stuff. And then she came out and said I was a good writer. And like I really just was overwhelmed with how many emotions I felt. Like I did die. I really did die.
I mean, that's so cute. Like, especially at that age.
Yeah.
Like, getting children in their preteen years to be nice to you is very difficult. So like you said, that's impressive.
I know.
But you've written all these wonderful YA books.
Yeah.
And now you're switching gears a little bit to adult thriller from YA romance.
Yeah.
What made you want to make that switch?
People ask me this, but it was not a conscious decision at all. I didn't know I was writing an adult thriller until I was writing an adult thriller, right? So I had the idea for the book, and it was clearly not going to be YA just because I thought of the main character. She's an adult, she's pregnant, she's married, she has a young son, and all the themes I wanted to touch on were definitely adult. And so when I started writing it, I knew that. And I also knew what the ending was going to be. And so it was definitely just built-in thriller. So then I had to learn how to write a thriller.
Did you change your process or your routine or like any mindset changes that you had to make to get into the thriller adult headspace and compared to YA romance?
No, I mean, I think it's not, the thriller thing wasn't the thing that was a little different. It was the adult that maybe was a little different just because I was suddenly allowed to talk about all of these the things that you wouldn't know unless you'd been on life for 30 years, 35, 40 years, right? So just like the permission to do that was interesting. And also I think in my young adult books, I tend to allow for a lot of hope. And I tend to answer the questions I ask. And in this book, I don't answer the questions because I don't know what the answers are. The book is definitely meant to point at a question and many questions that I want us all to consider.
It is definitely a thought-provoking book.
Right.
So for those who haven't seen anything about One of Our Kind, Give us a little synopsis of what it's about.
It's definitely a thriller, as we've said. I've been pitching it as Get Out meets the Stepford Wives. And it's about a woman named Jasmine who, along with her husband and her young son, moved to this place called Liberty, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, a very wealthy suburb, bills itself as a Black utopia. Everyone there is Black, the janitors, the lawyers, the doctors, the venture capitalists, and importantly, the police officers are Black. Jasmine goes there because she's looking for a sense of community. She's looking for safety for her family. And at first she finds it. But then things start to shift. People start being more interested, or her neighbors are more interested in this spa, a very wealthy spa at the center of town. It's on a hill. It's very expensive. Lots of shishi treatments. Her husband starts going there. Jasmine's pregnant, so she feels a sense of urgency to investigate what's going on. She does meet some like-minded folks, and they start to dig, but things start to get dangerous. And Jasmine has to figure out who really is one of her kind and who's not at all.
Dun, dun, dun. And you touched on Jasmine's pursuit of community. Like, community is so important to her and drives her in everything. Is that, what part of you came out in that character?
I mean, I think it's important to say that Jasmine is entirely fictional.
Yes, yes.
Definitely not me at all.
But writers pull pieces of themselves into their characters.
Right, and so I think what I've pulled into her is like this concern that we all have in the world, right? With this like conflict that I think we all can feel, because so you wake up in the morning and mostly everything's fine, right? But you turn on the news and the world is on fire all the time, right? And I think that if you're a reasonably good person, you want to fix things, right? You want to like tackle global warming, and there's a war going on. There's several wars going on, in fact. There's racism, there's sexism, there are all the things that need fixing. But also it's you, and it's just you. And you have to take care of yourself, and you have to take care of your family and your friends. And that there's a way in which the world can tug you apart and pull you apart. Like, you're trying to fix this, you're trying to fix that. You have to take care of yourself. And I think there's a certain amount of guilt that comes with that. And I think Jasmine is dealing with that. She's dealing with that pull to take care of her community. And balance that with trying to take care of herself. And I think we all struggle with this. Like, the modern condition is to have these two things going on all the time.
So you posted a little TikTok, Instagram, of the notebooks. So you write by hand.
I do.
What is that process like for you, and going, like, why do you want to write by hand, and how does that work for you?
I want doesn't enter into it. It just is the way I write, and it's always has been. I used to be in finance, and I used to code. And I used to code like by writing the general sort of algorithm down by hand and then typing it in. I don't know why my brain works this way. I do know that it makes me feel free, right? So a notebook, somehow it's just, I can just cross it out. It's no big deal. It makes me try things more and take more risks, strangely. And so for first drafting, that's the part of my brain that I really need to be open, is like the wild, weird, like will follow any notion part of my brain, right? And then every like 3 or 4 days I'll type in what I have written. And then that's like my first revision, right? Because I really edit it when I'm typing in. It just feels more formal. It's such a different process. Like, I mean, I honestly think there's different parts of my brain working when I do one thing versus the other. I've tried short-circuiting it, and it does not work. It's like, it comes out badly. I don't know why.
How did you find that this was the process that works for you? Like, what was your trial and error process journey like to find that writing by hand was really where it was for you?
There was no trial by error. Like, I think that's just the way my brain is. I just write it down. Like, I always write things down. I mean, I really used to code by writing it down. And so once I finally made the switch to writing, it just seemed like that's what I was going to do. So I have these Moleskine notebooks, and I've recently switched to paper blanks because they're pretty, and I like pretty.
Understandable. The book girlies get it.
Yes. And so I just do it. Like, I wish I had like a reasonable explanation, but I super don't.
So when you're crafting this town of Liberty, where Jasmine and her husband move with their little boy, you talk about the wellness center was always meant to be the center of town, and like there's aspects of like plotting the town out itself. How did you approach crafting the town?
I will say, a lot of fun writing some of the aspects of the wellness center, right? So one of the things I did was look at a lot of shishi spas, but not like I didn't go to them. Like I looked online, and oh my God, the things you can find. Like some of these spas are insane. Like their menus are just wild, and the prices are, it's just astronomical, right? So
What's the craziest thing you saw?
the thing that sticks in my is the sound beat therapy, and I just don't understand what it would do. Like I'm so curious. Like I want to go. There's lots of things where you're immersed into like salt, and the room is black, and then there's stuff happening. And I could see how maybe it's interesting, but not for the prices that they're offering them at. I don't know. It was just the price would stress me out while I was in the therapy. I'd be like, no, I can't deal with this. So that was fun. And then I just I'm a terrible artist, but I just drew the town. Like, and I just like, this was going to be here. This was going to be here. Like I made myself like a little doodle of a map. But the town is more about the details of like the places that they're in. Like if we ever make it into a movie, honestly, they can rearrange it however they want, but the details are the things that are really important to me.
Is there going to be a movie?
God, there's wood. I'm going to knock on it. I would really like to see it, but nothing yet.
I mean, everyone wants to know about the movies. I have more movie questions, but we'll hold those for later.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the book now. The book is the more important part right now.
Right, yeah.
This book does tackle some very big, tough issues.
Yes.
And so it's always kind of a challenge to like navigate those kind of conversations about racism, especially like, I know I'm white. It's very delicate how to phrase things like that.
So what you said before, like we have to be delicate or you're sort of unsure how to ask. But I think part of the point of the book though is don't just ask. It's like, it's fine. I think so much of the problem when we talk about race and racism is a fear, right? Because what happens is that we're not treating each other with grace, right? Like we're not treating each other like the best versions of ourselves. Like if I ask you a question because I don't know something, like it's just meant well, right? It's meant as a question, and sometimes I'm ignorant and sometimes I get it wrong. Like I have gotten it wrong with my friends before, and they just correct me because they know that I love them, and vice versa. Like they've gotten it wrong with me, and I'm like, no, and then fix it and we move on, right? And I think that in our conversations, like you and me sitting here, like if we're just open and just relax, and I assume that you're a good person and you assume I'm a good person, then we don't have to be like scared of it, because I think the fear prevents actual connection, and I think it prevents actual conversation. And so one of the things that I like, my dearest wish for this book is that after you like stay up all night reading it and fling it across the room, is that
Okay, mood though.
is that you actually talk to your friends, talk to people inside your circle, but more importantly, talk to people outside your circle about why the book ends the way it does, and just be honest. And like, if you get things wrong, it's not coming from a bad place. Like most people will do the right thing if they know what the right thing is. Some people suck.
It's
but
true.
most people don't. I maintain. And I think that fear hinders progress, right? Like on all sides, not just like between like race questions, but any kinds of questions. Like the best thing is just to shed some light on it and to talk about it.
So did you feel like there was a point where it might have, you needed to go harder, or like balancing that out along with the plot of making sure that the message was clear and that talking about the problem is clear, but not letting it overshadow the plot? Or like, did you think about like, would I lose a reader at this point if I go too hard on this topic?
You know, you can't, or at least I can't think about the reader while I'm writing. Like I can't think of, because it's bad for art making, right? Like I just have to say the thing that I want to say, and write the book that I want to write. I am aware now on the other side of it, like how people feel. People are having very big feelings, some great, some like less great. But that's for the reader. Like I just needed to do the thing, and like I wanted to do. I needed, like I was compelled to write this book. I couldn't help it. And I don't know. I mean, I think that I wanted a thriller. Like I wanted something fast-paced because I'm quite shallow and I like my books to be fast-paced. So I was like, oh, I want people to stay up with this one. And And so, but I also had all these things I wanted to talk about. And my favorite kind of books are ones that ask big questions, but are also really entertaining. And so, I mean, hopefully I've done that, but I mean, that was deliberate. But I can't think about like a mythical reader while I'm writing, because then I won't be able to do it.
There's a really great quote from Toni Morrison that's in this book that basically says that racism is a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Were you using that? It's in the book. I know I've seen other interviews where you've talked about that's a very important quote to you.
Yeah.
Since this is a thriller that is very race-driven, was the racism a distraction from what was going on all along?
Well, I mean, I think what happens to Jasmine, and again, I think this is like a specific problem to sort of being Black in America, but also can be broader. A problem is that so many things can be distracting, right? So many things can pull you away from your life because we've kind of made a mess of things. Like there are too many things going wrong, and there are too many things to care about, and it's hard to like, if you have to be hyper vigilant all the time, you're gonna miss something, right? And part of the question in this book is like, why have we created a world where we have to be so hyper vigilant, where there's no relaxing because something is gonna go wrong, you're gonna miss it. Jasmine feels so compelled to protect her family that she moves to this town where everything is supposed to be safe, right? But why does she think it's going to be safe there? Like, is a question that, I'm asking us all to consider. And also, why have we made a world like this where she would want to take herself out of the larger society to feel safe?
What do you hope the reader takes away from this story the most? There's a lot of things to take away from this, but what do you hope they take away the most?
So there's Isabel Wilkerson, fabulous nonfiction author. She wrote Caste. I talk about this a lot because I saw her talk about, she describes like structural racism as a house that we're all in, right? Like we didn't build the house, but we're all in this house now. And like the basement's flooding and the windows are broken and all this stuff is going wrong. And the only thing to do is fix it. Like all of us, just roll up your sleeves and fix it. There's no time for blame. There's no time for any of that stuff. There's just, let's fix it because the house is broken and it's hurting all of us, right? Like racism obviously affects the victims the most, but everyone hurts from it, right? Like if I walk into a room and someone assumes that I can't be a really good friend to them because I'm brown and they're not, right? That hurts them too, right? Because I'm a great friend, right?
Absolutely. You're adorable and awesome, and I love you.
But also, like, I mean, like on business-wise, right? Like, so someone interviews for a job, like someone Black interviews for a job and you don't give them, you're missing out on this person who's maybe the best person to do that job, to run your company, to do whatever. So it hurts everyone, right? So one of the things I want to people to take away is like, we're all in this house, let's try to fix it. But mostly, I just want people to talk, right?
Yes. But we have to talk about the ending.
Yes. But no spoilers. Right?
I know it's really hard.
Yes.
It's really hard to talk about this with no spoilers, but I have feelings because it is not where I thought it was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you knew that that's where you wanted it to go. It feels like it could be a setup for a sequel.
You're the second person to ask me this.
Okay, but it could be.
No.
You're not going to do it? Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay, well.
I mean, never say never and all that, but no way.
Okay, fine. I was real hopeful.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can't. After we're not talking about this officially, then afterwards I'll talk to you about
yes.
Where you think it could go.
I mean, there's potential. There's potential.
Okay.
But I guess okay for now. One thing I love about you and your husband is that you also run an imprint, Joy Revolution.
Yeah.
And the mission behind that imprint is just so special, and I love everything that you guys are doing with it.
I love that imprint. It's my favorite.
So talk a little bit about what it's like for you as a writer to now be in the position of publisher and how that's shaped your writing moving forward after doing this a little, 2 years now?
Yeah, so what year are we in?
2014.
2024.
2014. What did I do? And numbers are hard, man. I'm not good at numbers.
All right, so I think we started working on things in 2021 and then started publishing in 2022. Honestly, can't remember. Time is so, since the pandemic, time is so compressed in my mind. But Joy Revolution is a young adult imprint at Random House Children's Books dedicated to publishing love stories by people of color and starring people of color. It started the idea of it started in grad school when Dave and I met. And we met because we were in the same classes together and we became friends. And one of the things we had in common was that we both loved rom-coms. And so we would talk about them all the time. And then we would talk about the fact that like there were never any people of color starring in them. They were always like on the side. And so like the black girl was always like the sassy sidekick that the main character would sort of tell all her feelings to. And then Dave always says that the Asian guy was always like the lab tech, right? Like the one that the sonograph tech that's saying, oh, you're pregnant and it's a girl or it's a boy or whatever. And every time he says that, it just makes me laugh. But it's really true. Like they were never the main characters. Like they were never the ones falling in love and like getting the boy or the girl or like having the big swoony thing and being vulnerable and being smart, being the prettiest one in the room. And I know for a fact that people of color fall in love all the time because
Shocker.
I know.
Breaking news.
I know. But you wouldn't know it from the media, right? So we always wanted to do something, but we didn't have any way to do something until we became more successful and sort of in the business and figured out how it like worked. And then we asked Barbara Marcus, who runs Random House Children's Books. Like we had the idea, we pitched her, and she is amazing. She's been a really wonderful mentor to me over the years, and she thought this was a great idea. And so then we got to start it. It's great. It's a lot of work, but it's like some of the most like gratifying, amazing thing that I've ever done. Like it's just like I don't sleep that much, but I love it. So like we have acquisition meetings on Fridays. So we read all the submissions. And so me, David, and our editor, Bria Ragan, we'll talk about all the submissions. And then if there's something we want to acquire, we like try to go get it, you know. Sometimes we end up in bidding wars and don't get the one we want. But sometimes we do get them. And we are a boutique imprint, so we're only doing 6 a year. And I have to tell you, like calling a debut author and saying, hey, we want to buy your book is like amazing. You know, like it's so special. And when we say we want to buy a book, we're investing in them, like not just the one book, but like their careers. Like we believe in that author, like for the long haul. So, and which is what all authors really want. Like we don't want, like it's book by book, but it's really a whole career body of work that you're interested in. So I don't know, it's been amazing. We published some really great books.
What have you learned as being a publisher that has helped you with your writing now moving forward from that?
That's a great question. And I wish I could say that I have learned something. I mean, I do, because writing is hard no matter how many books you read. And even I can write a great edit letter for someone else, but not for myself, because you're too in it to see it, weirdly. So I don't know if it's helped my craft, but it's helped me understand the business. I understand now when someone says the voice isn't working. Because I've read so many manuscripts now, I know that a voice isn't working. And I know that there's not actually another way to say that. So I guess I understand like a little bit of like the publishing side, you know, like when you're trying to figure out why something is not quite connecting with you. I would never ever send my first draft of anything to anyone, because we have gotten first drafts in, and that just does the author a disservice, right? Because mostly no one's first draft is very good, right? Like you're too many words that it's very mushy. Like you don't feel like the author, you're in good hands with the author. My first drafts are terrible. I would never have sold a book if I had given out my first draft. So, I mean, I would never do that, because we've gotten some things where I know 3 drafts down the line, I would have been like, oh, I want that. And we've actually done that when we've gotten things in that maybe in the 3rd revision and we go revise and resubmit. Like this is so close to having something that we can work with. And it's worked a few times actually, where we've gotten a manuscript in again and it's like so much better, and then we can all work on revising it and stuff. So yeah, I think I've probably learned more from the publishing side. It doesn't help me, unfortunately, when I'm writing, because it's different parts of your brain.
So you're doing all this reading for all these manuscripts. How do you switch your brain to read for fun now?
That is a good question. I have always read so much. Like, I still read 2 books a week at least. Like, it just is. I mean, I don't watch a lot of TV, though. I play a lot of video games, but not TV. And so reading is just part of me. And don't know. I just switch. It's okay. Like, I don't know. My brain is just like, okay, I'm reading this for editorial. And just I'm reading for fun. I can't edit this, even though I might want to. Even if it's a finished book, I'm like, oh, no. This is not making sense. But when I'm reading for work, like if my editorial brain turns off, that means the book is like so close already. That's my favorite, when I like forget to be like editing and saying, oh, I don't know if that motivation works or whatever. That's the best when we get manuscripts like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just because reading is a part of me. It's easy to go back and forth.
What kind of goods do you got coming out from Joy Revolution that we should be watching for?
Well, we're single-handedly trying to bring back dystopian.
Yes, please. I've had so many kids come looking for dystopian in the bookstore lately.
Right. I feel like it's time. So we have a dystopian coming out in the fall by Jill 2, and it's called The Dividing Sky. We have another one from Angela Montoya called A Cruel Thirst. We have another rom-com coming out in August called Love Requires Chocolate by Raven Sternfield. I'm sure I'm forgetting some books that we have coming out, but like it's going to be a good fall, end of summer into fall.
Well, I'm so excited. So when I saw you and your husband last was at Y'all Fest.
Okay.
And you guys talked about writing together.
Yes.
I have not seen any updates on this.
Yes.
Is it still happening?
Tragically, no. Oh, no. Like, are we at the show of that project? We have another idea. So hopefully when both of us aren't so wildly busy, we'll do that. We are working on something else that's a secret that I cannot say. It's not books, though, but it's literary related.
Oh, I need tea so bad on this. Does anything either of you do? I'm like, just yes. Just yes.
I'll tell you after.
Oh, yes. I love the scoops. There was a couple years ago, there was talk of the Obamas adapting Blackout.
Yes.
That's still happening, since with all the strikes that really threw the clocks off.
Right. I mean, as far as I know, it's still happening, but you're right to say that the strikes have really just delayed everything, and the market is really tough right now. I think everyone's still trying to catch up. Everyone's trying to figure out what they're doing. You know, there's so much content. The streamers are pulling back, so we'll see. I mean, hopefully, but we'll see.
There's so many good books that got picked up right before the strike,
Right.
and now it's like we're running out of time. It makes me nervous because I want to see all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, your 2 movie adaptations were so good,
Right.
so we have such high hopes for Blackout.
Yeah.
To be another stunner.
I mean, I have high hopes too, and there's instructions for dancing, which had been optioned and then just sort of stalled out as soon as the strikes hit. And so, now there's nothing happening on that, unfortunately.
Hollywood. Fix it.
I know, honestly, fix it.
Last question we always ask. Since this is literary hype,
Yeah.
what books are you hyped about?
All right, so there's one called The Impossible Us by Sarah Lotz. And it's like a multiverse story, but a multiverse love story, which there are a lot of multiverse stories lately. It's in the zeitgeist, but I've not seen a love story that sort of crosses the universes, and this one's really good. And it's called The Impossible Us because they are in different universes, and how is it going to work? So that's really good. The Unwedding by Ali Condi, which just came out on the 4th, I want to say, which is great mystery, but also a meditation on loss and grief, which is really lovely.
There's a lot of books out this year on loss and grief.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've all been through a lot lately, right?
Yeah. I mean, book after book after book, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I need something happy. And I need a happy ending, but I need happiness through the whole thing.
Romance books are booming, so like there's no shortage of like finding like sort of happy rom-coms too, right?
Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us about your new book, One of Our Kind.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to Nicola for taking time out of her tour stop to sit down with me and talk. And we ended up chit-chatting a long time after camera, and like her event was so great. So if you want to get a hold of One of Our Kind, Instructions for Dancing, The Sun is Also a Star, Everything. She also wrote on Blackout and Whiteout. So there's a lot of options if you want to check out Nicola's writing, and I highly recommend you do. I mean, 2 of her books are already movies, and there's talks of others. Like, get on board, people, get on board. So the links to buy these books are down in the description below. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel if you have not already done so, and share it with your friends. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.